Before we start, I do want to throw a few disclaimers out there because I know not everyone will agree with the decision that I made, and that's okay. Like, I'm not here to invalidate anybody's opinions or feelings or views on certain things, but I do want to make it clear that no one, and I mean not one person, can or will shame me into feeling any type of way about my situation. Truthfully, I don't owe anybody an explanation. Getting pregnant at 14 was never a part of the plan, but it happened. It is what it is at the end of the day. I'm not going to continue beating myself up for it for the rest of my life. Like, it took me a long time to finally get to this point in my life where I feel not ashamed. So yeah, I just want to kind of throw that out there. I love my daughter endlessly. She shaped me into who I am today, and I could not be more grateful to have her in my life. So any negative comments will be removed. If this video does not resonate with you, then I mean, respectfully, you can click off. That also brings me to clarify the purpose of this video. This video is by no means me trying to encourage teenage pregnancy. I'm simply sharing my story. This was a huge life-changing part of my life, and honestly it still is a part of my life. I don't know, I just feel like it's time. I'm finally, like I said, at ease. I'm finally okay with the fact that I'm a parent. With that being said, I'm Anaya Rose. I am 23 years old. I'm about to be 24 in May. I do have an 8-year-old daughter. Her name is Deja. She is going to be 9 in November. And I now have a 2-year-old daughter. She is going to be 3 in December. Their birthdays are actually 2 weeks apart. I had Deja when I was 15, but she was conceived when I was 14, and I ended up finding out that I was pregnant at 14 as well, right before my 15th birthday. I might as well just answer this like right away because this is honestly one of the most common questions that I get. Yes, I am still with the father of my children. It's gonna be 11 years since we've been together, and we actually ended up getting married in 2021. Yeah, we're still going on strong. Guess I should start there. We met in 2014. I was 13 at the time, he was 15, and we basically met through mutual friends. He messaged me on Facebook one day. I ignored him because his messages were giving thirsty. Eventually we actually started talking back and forth. It started off on Facebook, and then he asked me for my number, but then I was like, no, you're gonna slow your roll. I'll give you my Snapchat. Ever since I gave him my Snapchat, we really became inseparable. Like, we would be on the phone for hours once we actually started like getting to know each other, and we started getting to know each other well. Yeah, it got to a point where we actually started like video calling on Skype, and I gave him my number. My mom would work night shifts. Every day she would come home and open the door to make sure that I was sleeping, because she would get home at around like 12 or 1, and I would be on the phone with him, but I didn't want her to know. And yeah, we would be on the phone basically all night. It literally felt like me and him knew each other so well for years. It felt like he was like, it was just a feeling that I had never felt before, and I just started appreciating him so much. We literally became like best friends. To open up to each other about super personal things, it felt so real. Like, it felt like something that I never felt before with anybody that I've ever met, honestly. It wasn't until after we went to the movies for the first time I realized that we actually had like great chemistry, and I actually ended up like catching feelings for this guy. I don't even know how to explain how I felt. It's just a feeling that like I can't explain, and until this day I still have that feeling. I know it's gonna sound crazy because I was only 13 at the time. I just knew that he was going to be the one. Like, I just knew. Like, I was seeing through the whole facade he was trying to put on for people. Eventually we did end up making our relationship official. I will say the first year of our relationship wasn't the greatest in terms of commitment on his end. A lot of my friends used to question my judgment, used to question why I still wanted to be with him. And the truth is, just to sum it up, I really didn't care much about our relationship. Like, don't get me wrong, I was hurt, but I valued our friendship much more. Like, I remember even telling him at some point that I wanted to keep things platonic. It was me wanting and fighting for the friendship. It's crazy to think about back then because we both changed so much. Like, we grew individually and we also grew, you know, as a couple. And we're now married, and it's just like, I'm kind of like happy that I trusted my intuition, because I did. I knew that he was such a sweet, kind-hearted person. But yeah, another commonly asked question is, how did I find out I was pregnant? And this story, like, oh, I'm a little nervous because, like, I don't know, I may laugh now, but like back then none of this was funny. Like, nothing was funny back then. It was very real, it was very emotional, and oh my god, I'm not gonna cry. I am and have always been very much in tune with my body, so I can always feel when something is off. It could be the simplest thing ever, like I will notice it right away. So I remember going to take a shower one day, and I glanced through the mirror and I noticed one of my breasts significantly larger than the other. And at first I didn't think anything of it, because I'm like, maybe it's just like my boobs growing or something. And back then my girls were like up there, you know what I mean? Like they were giving breast lift. After like 2-3 weeks of me waiting, it still looked the same. And not only did it look the same, but I started experiencing like this shocking pain. And when I say significantly different, like you could tell just by looking at me with clothes on. And so I ended up taking a picture of my breast because I wanted to see if I was crazy or if there was actually like a difference. But you could see the difference. I immediately started panicking and I started doing my research. If it's one thing about me, I Google the heck out of a symptom, okay? Like I will Google everything. I don't care what it is, I'm Googling it, okay? So I started Googling, and of course I assumed the worst. I immediately started assuming that I was gonna die, and it was crazy. So I remember going to school the next day, showing all of my friends the picture of my breasts to ask them like if I'm crazy, or like, do you see a difference in person? Do you see the difference in the photos? Like, please help me, somebody. All of my friends were like, no, it's normal to have one side of your body be disproportionate. And so they weren't really helpful, but I knew, like I just knew deep down something was wrong. Yeah, I kid you not, the next day after showing them the picture, I started feeling shocking pain in my breast. It was so bad, like it hurt so bad to a point where I used to have to hold my breast up to my chest and I would cry until it stopped hurting. Like it literally felt like somebody was electrocuting me from the inside, and it hurt so bad. Like it hurt so bad. So obviously, knowing me, I'm gonna go on Google and I'm gonna start researching some more, and that just kind of like solidified my thoughts. I instantly thought that I had, I'm not even gonna like speak that into existence, but like I'm sure you guys are putting 2 and 2 together. And I know I'm laughing now, but it was not funny. Like I was dead ass scared. I thought that was going to be the end for me. I remember going to my mom, telling her how I thought I had like, you know, the sickness or whatnot. And the first question that she asked me was, are you having sex? And I lied, obviously. Now, why did I lie? I could not tell you, because truthfully, she knew that I wasn't a virgin back then. I feel like she probably knew that I was lying. No, I feel like she knew I was lying. She then told me to make an appointment either with my pediatrician at the time or make an appointment at the CLSC. I ended up making an appointment at the clinic because it was just like a faster appointment. I wanted to figure out what was going on with me as quickly as possible. So fast forward to the day of the appointment. Now, got to my appointment. I remember being scared shitless, okay? And so I walk into the doctor's office or whatever, and the nurse was there. The nurse started asking me questions like, why am I here? I started telling her about, you know, the discrepancy in size and about my shocking pain. I felt like lumps in my breast, so I told her about that as well. She then started asking me more questions, and these were like super relevant questions that I don't even remember till this day. Then she got to the menstrual question. She started asking me, I remember her question being something along the lines of, have you started your menstruation yet? I started telling her about how I started my period early at the age of 8. And then she was like, when was the last day of your period? And that's when I was like, I don't remember. Back then I was on Marvelon 28s, which are birth control pills. I would always get my period like while I was taking the sugar pills. So I was trying to remember how many boxes away was my last period. And I couldn't remember. That's when I noticed that like I haven't had my period in forever. And then she started asking me more questions. She was like, well, are you stressed? How is school going? And started just asking me like a lot of questions. And I remember telling her, you know, how I was stressed and just like my whole situation. And so she did look through like my file quickly and saw that I did have like a social worker, a psychiatrist, like a whole bunch of mental health professionals. And so she then proceeded to tell me that my period could be late due to hormonal imbalances or whatnot. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember how we went from your period could be late to her asking me to take a pregnancy test, but I remember her asking me to take a pregnancy test. And when she asked me to take a pregnancy test, I was like, I'm not pregnant. Like, I'm telling you from now, I'm not pregnant. I was like, I've been taking the Marvelon 28s. I haven't missed a day. Like, we ain't pregnant over here. Like, I remember reiterating that to her many times, and she just wouldn't give up. So I was like, you know what? Let me just take this pregnancy test to prove to her that I'm not pregnant. Like, let me just shut her up, basically. Y'all, I went and I took the pregnancy test, came back, waited. She said that it would take a minute or two or something. I was so nervous because it was like super awkward. It was like dead silent. It went from us having like, you know, a slight conversation to it being dead silent while we were waiting for this test. But I was so confident that the test would come back negative. She got up, y'all, out of her chair. She went to the pregnancy test, huffed and puffed. She literally went back to sit down, got her booklet, and started questioning me like crazy. Like, it went from her asking me the simplest questions, like I told you guys, to her asking me, do I have support? Who do I live with? What would my mom think if the test came back positive? Would she kick me out? She asked me, am I still with my boyfriend? How is me and my boyfriend's relationship? Like, she just started asking me like these serious questions, and I was like, girl, like, we do not need to do this. Like, I am not pregnant, so like there's honestly no point of us like doing this, you know? I was like, I don't know like how anybody would react. Like, I don't know, there's no pregnancy, right? And she kept writing down in her notebook. She turned around and she was like, the test came back positive. I was like, huh? What do you mean positive? She's like, you're pregnant. I was like, this has to be a mistake. I'm not pregnant. This is a mistake. So I politely asked her to take another test, and she refused. She literally would not let me take another test, and I just feel like that was petty of her. I will say that in that moment, I was in denial. Nothing was clicking to me. I didn't have no feelings, to be honest. I was just scared to tell my mom. As soon as I left, I called my husband. I told my husband. He had a very nonchalant reaction. Like, he pretty much was just telling me that he would support me with whatever decision I chose to make, and the decision was obviously ultimately up to me. My husband then called his mom and put us on three-way and told his mom over the phone as well. And I don't remember what his mom said verbatim. Like, she wasn't the happiest, basically. She wasn't the happiest. And she was basically saying how hard it is to raise children. All I had in my mind was the fact that I needed to call my mom back. I already knew that I wouldn't be able to lie my way through this, and I knew that I had to tell her. Like, I just wasn't gonna lie. I'm on the bus at this point, heading back to school, and I called my mom and I was like, hey, I'm done my appointment, and I said, I have something to talk to you about. I remember asking myself if I should just get off of the bus and walk home and tell her like in person. I decided that I wasn't gonna get off no bus because I was too scared, and she immediately was like, tell me now, what is it, tell me now. No, I want to know now. And I was like, no, I will tell you when I'm done school. I'll tell you when I get home. She's like, no, you're gonna tell me now. Like, we were going back and forth, and then she's like, you're pregnant. and the awkward silence was loud because I froze. I did not know what to say at first. It was like quiet for like a good 30 seconds. And I was like, yes. And her response to that was, oh, well, I guess you're having a baby. But the way she said it, you could just tell that it wasn't like a good response, you know? And obviously I wasn't expecting her to be super happy, but like that response made me even more scared to go home. Like, I can't even imitate the way she said it. Like, it was kind of giving sarcastic, but she was dead ass at the same time, you know what I mean? And so at that moment, the fear in me worsened. I was terrified. I didn't even want to go back home. I didn't know what to expect from my mom. Now I knew that she wouldn't be the type of mom to like kick me out of her house. I just felt so disappointed in myself because my mom used to always tell me that I would get pregnant at a really young age, and I would always tell her, no, like, you're just talking, like that would never happen. Oh my god, not me gonna get emotional. Oh my god, no. Oh, not me getting emotional. No, 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 no. We're not gonna do this. But I couldn't tell her true feelings over the phone. And you know, I told my mom that I was gonna be making this video a couple of days ago. And I asked her if she remembers telling me that I was gonna get pregnant at a young age. And she does. So I ended up asking her what led her to believe that. She mentioned that I was kind of rebelling back then, but the thing is, I don't believe that I was a rebellious child. I wasn't the type to skip school. I never snuck out. I never disrespected my mom, like, to a certain extent. Obviously, like, she's a Jamaican, so like I would not dare to disrespect her in certain ways. But I never snuck guys in like my friends have told me they were doing at that time. My point is, I never really got in trouble back then. Like, the times that I would get in trouble would be about me having like boyfriends or like puppy love type situations, or it would be me entertaining boys. And as I got older, I started to reflect on my childhood. I thought about all of my life decisions. I thought about all my life choices, even decisions I made as a child. I started questioning why I was the way I was and why I am the way I am today. And this is not to say that there was anything wrong with me back then or that there's anything wrong with me today, but I did realize that at the time I had no self-love. I was lacking self-esteem, and honestly that stemmed from the way I was, or in other words, not treated by those who I expected to treat me. Like, have you ever been in a room full of people yet you feel so alone? That was literally my childhood in itself. I was pretty much born into drama, and it affected my years growing up. So I also felt like I was treated very poorly by my siblings. They always claimed that I was my mom's chosen one, and you know, that I was the favorite, which is not the case. I don't know if them treating me a certain type of way had anything to do with that. What I do know though is that the trauma from my childhood affected the decisions I made growing into a young adult. The love that I felt I was lacking from those who I expected to receive it from, I ended up seeking it elsewhere. And that's pretty much where the entertaining boys and getting into like puppy love type situations came about. Yeah, I'm like getting real nervous. Also, my body developed at a really young age, and so with that obviously came with attention, and with that attention came those who ended up taking advantage of me because I was so young and I was so naive, and I thought I knew it all back then. So I can understand where my mom was coming from. And you know, before I even got pregnant, our relationship was strained, but we started counseling and we did actually end up improving our relationship in certain aspects. My mom, yeah, my mom has and will always be the most important woman in my life. And to be honest, at the time, out of all my friends and family, her opinion was the only one that mattered to me. So I always felt like I would be able to prove to her, you know, that I would make it. I would go to college, I would get a degree. I would just prove to her that I wasn't the girl she thought I was. I just always wanted her to be proud of me, but mothers know, and that's why it hurt me knowing that I in a way hurt her, that I disappointed her. I felt like I failed her as a child, and you know, that was never my intention. She's done so much for me. She would do anything for her children. She may not think it, but she is an amazing mother. And I understand now. I understand why she did certain things. I understand why she didn't allow certain things. I understand. I don't care about what anybody has to say about her. She is an amazing woman, an amazing parent, and she's so I'm a mess. Oh my god. When I got home from school that day, I walked in on her crying. She was hysterical. Like, it was honestly just very emotional for the both of us, because I was watching her cry and then I started crying, and I honestly didn't know what to say. I just was so disappointed in myself, honestly. She saw how emotional I was, and I remember her exact words. She was like, "I'm not mad at you, I'm just very disappointed." And that just goes to show how great of a parent she is. We eventually had a deeper conversation about everything, and she told me that she didn't think that I should have an abortion because she doesn't believe in that, but ultimately the choice is mine. She made it clear that she would support me no matter what, whether I chose to keep the baby or not. I obviously decided to keep my daughter. It did take me a while to make that decision. At first I just wasn't making a decision, and I remember I ended up having another appointment with the nurse, and she was like, "You do know that not making a decision is making a decision." And so I made a decision to keep my daughter. Now they have the most amazing relationship. My daughter was practically raised by both my mom and myself, and yeah, my daughter loves her more than she loves me. She'd be telling me that all the time, and I mean, I don't mind. We both love my mom so very much, and I'm just happy that I took her advice and that I chose to keep my daughter. Oh my god, I can't stop crying. So I think I'm gonna make a part 2 about my whole pregnancy experience, and anything that I didn't cover in this video, I'm gonna cover in part 2. If you guys have any questions that, you know, I didn't answer, or that you guys just want to know, I'm open to answer them in the second part of the video. Oh my god, I'm like a mess, but sorry. But yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, and yeah.